fingers brushed against her bare skin. "He's not coming," David whispered, his voice low and steady as he finished zipping her dress. Eliza's shoulders tensed, the weight of those 3 words heavier than the elegant gown she wore. Tonight was supposed to be her triumph, the company gala where her fiancé would finally meet her colleagues. Instead, she stood frozen in her office, the city lights twinkling beyond the window, as her assistant, a single father she'd barely acknowledged until today, became the only person who could see her breaking. If you're enjoying this story so far, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more emotional journeys that explore the unexpected connections we make in life's most vulnerable moments. David Parker never planned to be zipping up his boss's dress at 7:30 on a Friday evening. He should have been home with Emma, his 8-year-old daughter, not working late again. But when the text from the babysitter came, "Can stay until 9, no problem," he'd agreed to help Eliza finalize the presentation for tonight's investors. He never expected to find her staring at her phone, mascara streaking down her cheeks, her half-zipped dress a metaphor for how quickly her perfect life was unraveling. Eliza Matthews had built her career on never showing weakness. At 34, she was the youngest executive director in the company's history, known for her razor-sharp mind and unflappable demeanor. Her employees respected her, but few would claim to know her. David had worked as her assistant for 11 months, and until today, their conversations had never strayed beyond professional matters. He knew her coffee order, oat milk latte, extra shot, her meeting preferences, mornings only, 30 minutes max, and her filing system, color-coded by project phase. He didn't know she had a small birthmark behind her right ear, visible only when her dark hair was swept up as it was tonight. "I can call you a car," David offered, stepping back, maintaining the professional distance that had defined their relationship. "Or I can tell them you're not feeling well." Eliza turned, her eyes meeting his for perhaps the first time without a laptop screen between them. 3 years, she said, her voice barely audible. 3 years, and he ends it by text. An hour before he's supposed to be here. She laughed, but the sound held no humor. Says he can't do it anymore. Can't handle being with someone whose career always comes first. David stood awkwardly, unsure of his role in this moment. He was her assistant, not her friend. Yet something in her expression, vulnerability mixed with fierce pride, resonated with him. He recognized it from his own reflection on the nights when Emma asked about her mother, and he had to find the strength to explain again why she'd left. "You don't need him tonight," David said finally. "You've prepared for this gala for months. The investors are coming to see you, not your fiancé." Eliza's gaze sharpened. "Ex-fiancé," she corrected, wiping away the last trace of tears. "And you're right. I don't need him." She straightened her shoulders, the transformation from broken woman to executive happening before his eyes. "But I do need someone by my side tonight. The board expects me to have a +1, and showing up alone after announcing my engagement would start rumors I can't afford." David felt the weight of what she was asking before she even said it. His mind flashed to Emma, to the promise he'd made to be home to tuck her in. But he also thought of the promotion he'd been hoping for, the one that would mean better hours and the ability to finally move them out of their cramped apartment. "I'll call the babysitter," he said, already reaching for his phone. "See if she can stay overnight." Relief flooded Eliza's face, quickly replaced by guilt. "Your daughter, Emma, right? I can't ask you to." "You're not asking," David interrupted. "I'm offering. Besides, Emma would be the first to tell me you need a knight in shining armor tonight." He smiled slightly. "She's very big on fairy tales these days." For the first time since he'd known her, Eliza Matthews smiled at him, really smiled, not the polite professional curve of lips she offered clients. "I didn't know you had a daughter until last month," she admitted. "When you had to leave early for her school play." David nodded, remembering how he'd expected resistance when he'd requested the time off. Instead, Eliza had simply rearranged her schedule without comment. She played a tree. Very convincingly. I bet she did. Eliza turned to the mirror, assessing her appearance with critical eyes. I look like I've been crying. You look human, David said, then immediately regretted his candor. I mean. No, you're right. Eliza reached for her makeup bag. Human is good tonight. Authentic. The investors respond to authentic. She spoke as if reminding herself of a business strategy, and David realized with sudden clarity how much of herself she had sacrificed for her career. While Eliza repaired her makeup, David called the babysitter, grateful when Jen agreed to stay the night. He texted Emma, promising pancakes for breakfast and feeling a pang of guilt when her reply came instantly, "Okay, Daddy. Love you. Help your boss be happy." Out of the mouths of babes, he thought. The transformation complete, Eliza turned to him. In her floor-length navy gown with her dark hair swept up, she looked every inch the successful executive. Only someone who had seen her tears would know the cost of this facade. "Ready?" she asked, her professional mask firmly back in place. David nodded, offering his arm with more confidence than he felt. "One question," he said as they walked toward the elevator. "What's my cover story? Who am I supposed to be tonight?" Eliza considered this as they descended to the lobby. "Just be yourself," she said finally. "David Parker, my right hand. The person who keeps me functioning." A ghost of vulnerability crossed her face. The truth is usually the easiest thing to remember. The hotel ballroom was already crowded when they arrived, crystal chandeliers casting a warm glow over the gathering of the city's business elite. David felt immediately out of place in his everyday suit, but Eliza moved with practiced ease, her hand resting lightly on his arm as she navigated the room. "Eliza. We were beginning to think you weren't coming." An older man approached, champagne in hand, eyes darting curiously to David. "Richard, good to see you." Eliza's voice was warm but controlled. "I'd like you to meet David Parker, my assistant and my date for the evening." Richard's eyebrows rose slightly. "Your assistant? What happened to?" "Plans change," Eliza said smoothly. "David has been instrumental in preparing tonight's presentation. I couldn't imagine anyone more appropriate to celebrate with." David extended his hand, surprised by Eliza's praise. "Pleasure to meet you, sir." As the evening progressed, David watched Eliza work the room with practiced charm. She introduced him to investors and board members, always with the same explanation: her trusted assistant, the backbone of her department. Some looked surprised, others speculative, but Eliza never faltered. During a brief moment alone by the bar, David leaned closer. "You're amazing at this," he said quietly. "No one would ever guess what happened earlier." Eliza's smile didn't quite reach her eyes. "Years of practice," she replied. "My father used to say business is just theater with real money at stake." "Is that why you do it? The money?" The question seemed to surprise her. "I do it because I'm good at it," she said after a moment. "Because I built something from nothing, and I'm not willing to let it fall apart." She glanced around the room. "What about you? Why be an assistant? You're clearly capable of more." The directness of her question caught him off guard. In nearly a year of working together, she had never asked about his ambitions. "Single parenthood limits your options," he said finally. "Regular hours, decent benefits. Emma needs stability." "Her mother isn't in the picture?" David shook his head. "Left when Emma was 2. Decided parenthood wasn't for her after all." He kept his tone neutral, the way he did when explaining to Emma. No bitterness, just facts. Something shifted in Eliza's expression, recognition, perhaps. "My mother left too," she said quietly. "I was 12. My father buried himself in work afterward. I practically raised myself." Before David could respond, they were interrupted by the chairman of the board, announcing it was time for Eliza's presentation. She squeezed David's arm briefly before walking to the small stage, transforming once more into the confident executive everyone expected. David watched as she captivated the room, her presentation flawless despite the personal turmoil of hours before. He found himself admiring not just her professional skill but her resilience. When she finished to enthusiastic applause, their eyes met across the room, and he felt an unexpected connection, two people who understood what it meant to keep going when life fell apart. The rest of the evening passed in a blur of conversations and introductions. David surprised himself by enjoying the networking, finding common ground with investors and executives who initially seemed intimidating. By the time they left, well after midnight, he had collected several business cards and promises of future meetings. In the back of the taxi, Eliza slipped off her heels with a sigh of relief. "Thank you," she said simply. "You saved me tonight." David smiled. "Just doing my job." "No," she shook her head. "Your job is scheduling my meetings and managing my inbox. Tonight was, above and beyond." She hesitated. "I've never been good at personal connections. Work always came first. Maybe that's why James left." "If he couldn't understand your dedication, that's his loss," David said, surprising himself with his candor. Eliza studied him in the dim light of the passing street lamps. "How do you do it? Balance Emma and work?" "Imperfectly," David admitted. "There are days I feel like I'm failing at both. But Emma knows she comes first, even when work demands my time. We have pancake Saturdays, movie Sundays. Sacred time, no matter what." "Sacred time," Eliza repeated softly. "I can't remember the last time anything in my life was sacred except work." When the taxi stopped at her building, David expected a quick goodbye. Instead, Eliza hesitated. "Would you like to come up for coffee? It's late, I know, but I'm not ready to be alone with my thoughts yet." The invitation surprised him. "I should get home to Emma," he said automatically, then remembered the babysitter was staying overnight. "But I suppose she's asleep by now." Eliza's apartment was exactly as he might have imagined, minimalist, elegant, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Yet there were unexpected touches: a well-worn paperback on the coffee table, a colorful throw blanket draped over the pristine white couch, a small collection of vintage vinyl records. "Not what you expected?" Eliza asked, catching his survey of the room. "I'm not sure what I expected," David admitted. "Maybe more filing cabinets." She laughed, a genuine sound that transformed her face. "I do have a home office, but I try to keep work contained there." She moved to the kitchen, filling a kettle. "Coffee might keep us up all night. Tea okay?" They settled on the couch, mugs in hand, the formality of boss and assistant gradually dissolving in the quiet intimacy of her living room. Eliza kicked off her remaining shoe, tucking her feet beneath her in a gesture so casual, so human, that David had to remind himself who she was. "Tell me about Emma," she said. "What's she like?" David found himself sharing stories: Emma's determination to learn skateboarding despite numerous falls, her collection of rocks she was convinced were dinosaur eggs, her serious discussions about whether clouds had feelings. Eliza listened with genuine interest, asking questions that revealed her own curiosity about a life so different from her own. "She sounds wonderful," Eliza said when he finally paused. "You've done an amazing job with her." "She makes it easy," David replied. "She's the best thing that ever happened to me, even when her mother leaving was the worst." He hesitated. "Can I ask what happened? With your fiancé?" Eliza's expression clouded. "James wanted me to scale back after the wedding. Take a less demanding position, start thinking about family." She stared into her mug. "I've worked so hard to get here. The idea of stepping back, of potentially watching someone else take what I built." She shook her head. "I couldn't do it. He said I had to choose." Tonight, he decided I'd made my choice. That's not fair, David said. Men advance their careers without being asked to choose. Life isn't fair, Eliza replied, but there was no bitterness in her tone, just resignation. The truth is, I'm not sure I want children. I never had that maternal instinct some women talk about. But I didn't want to lose him either. She looked up, meeting David's eyes. Is that selfish? Knowing what you want isn't selfish, David said. Pretending to want something you don't, that would be unfair to everyone, including any potential children. They talked until the sky began to lighten, moving from personal histories to favorite books, from travel dreams to childhood memories. David learned that beneath Eliza's professional exterior was a woman who loved old movies, who had once wanted to be a marine biologist, who sang along to 80s power ballads when she thought no one could hear. As dawn broke over the city, David realized with surprise that hours had passed. I should go, he said reluctantly. Emma will be up soon, wondering where I am. Eliza nodded, walking him to the door. David, she said as he was about to leave. Thank you. Not just for tonight, but for seeing me. The real me, not just the boss. Thank you for letting me see her, he replied. She's pretty impressive too. Monday morning arrived with a strange new awareness between them. In the office, they maintained their professional roles, but something had shifted. Eliza began asking about Emma, remembering details from their conversation. She approved David's request to leave early on Wednesdays for Emma's soccer practice without hesitation. 2 weeks after the gala, Eliza stopped by David's desk at the end of the day. I have a proposition for you, she said. The board was impressed with your networking skills at the gala. There's an opening in client relations that I think you'd be perfect for. Better hours, substantial raise. David stared at her, processing the opportunity. Are you serious? Completely. You're overqualified to be my assistant, David. You have been from the start. She handed him the job description. Think about it. Talk to Emma. Let me know by Friday. The promotion changed everything. Suddenly, David could afford a larger apartment in a better school district. He could start a college fund for Emma. Most importantly, he could be home for dinner every night, could attend school events without constantly checking his phone for urgent emails. His relationship with Eliza evolved too. As peers rather than boss and assistant, they developed a friendship based on mutual respect and understanding. They began having lunch together occasionally, discussing work projects and gradually sharing more of their personal lives. 6 months after the gala, David invited Eliza to Emma's birthday party, a small gathering at their new apartment with a few of Emma's friends. He hadn't expected her to come, but she arrived with a thoughtfully chosen gift, a telescope, remembering Emma's fascination with stars from one of David's stories. Watching Eliza interact with Emma, awkwardly at first but with growing confidence, David felt something shift in his perception of her. She wasn't just his former boss or even just his friend. She was a woman finding her way toward connection, toward the possibility of a life not defined solely by career success. That night, after Emma had gone to bed surrounded by her new treasures, David and Eliza sat on his small balcony, sharing a bottle of wine. She's extraordinary, Eliza said. You should be proud. I am, David replied. Every day. He hesitated. She likes you, you know. Says you're not as scary as I made you sound. Eliza laughed. I'm glad to hear my reputation is improving. She grew serious. Being here today, seeing you with her, it made me think about what I might be missing by focusing only on work. It's never too late to find balance, David said. You taught me that, actually. Seeing you succeed without sacrificing everything else inspired me to try. Eliza looked surprised. I inspired you? I thought I was the cautionary tale, the workaholic whose fiancé left her. You're the woman who picked herself up, who didn't compromise her dreams for someone else's expectations, David corrected. Who's learning to make room for more without giving up what matters to her. Their eyes met in the soft evening light, and David felt the same connection he'd experienced the night of the gala, two people who understood each other's struggles, who saw beyond the roles they played in the world. David, Eliza sigh.